Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you here today from the headquarters of Allied Grape Growers. I'm here with President of the Association, Jeff Bitter. It's been one crazy year, but smoke exposure aside, we're in harvest right now. Wanted to know what's going on, what the crop looks like this year, and how the market's doing. Back at Unified Symposium and at our annual Grape Expos last year, we're talking about too much crop, too much supply, and how we're going to correct that. Let's see where we're at now, though. I mean, based on some pullouts that happened, where are we at today?
Well, overall, the market's becoming actually in better balance because of a couple reasons. One is the crop is a little bit shorter than people thought that it would be this year, and also because there were some pullouts in excess of the new vineyard acres that were coming in. So we've had a net decline in bearing acres for 2020 versus 2019. So that's helped to bring the market into balance just purely from a supply and demand standpoint. The state actually estimated that we would have a 4 million ton wine grape crop. That's not going to happen, I don't think, at this point, for numerous reasons, smoke exposure aside. But it does look like a smaller than anticipated crop. And so it's too early to say how that turns out because of many factors that are ongoing right now. But we're definitely seeing yields coming in 10 to 15% of less than where we kind of expected on many varieties.
Last year we talked about a lot of acreage that wasn't even harvested. It was probably a record amount of acreage that was left unharvested. Do you think that we're going to have some of that happening again this year? Maybe we have some due to smoke exposure, but outside of smoke exposure, do you think some acreage will be left unharvested?
I don't think so in the Central Valley. We saw quite a bit unharvested in the Central Valley last year and up in Lodi, which was unprecedented. Most of the time, the grapes in the interior end up getting cleaned up by concentrate or distilling material programs. And even last year, those programs were not able to consume the amount of grapes that were left over. So this year it's different. I do think that most of the grapes will be harvested. I don't see any major concerns with having Central Valley and Lodi grapes harvested because of supply issues. So again, smoke exposure aside. The growers are going to be in a much better position market-wise this year, at least in the interior regions. In the coast, we were forecasting prior to harvest that it was possible that we would see some coastal grapes unharvested because we do think there was a pretty acute supply overage going into 2020. And of course, now it's even more likely that's going to happen because of the other issues with our fires. But the reality is we kind of suspected that to begin with for this year.
With COVID-19 and the uncertainty of this year, how is that impacting the marketplace? They put this, detailed study out there showing all the losses, from the wineries and sales and stuff. But we've been adapting to the changes. Have we been able to keep up with the losses?
That's a great question. So what we really are seeing is channel shifting. So consumers are still buying wine. We have not lost shipments per se in terms of volume, but there's major shifts going on in where that wine is being sold, the channels in which it's going through. So unfortunately, the channels we've lost are the on-premise channels like restaurants and tasting rooms and event centers and things like that, or conferences, anywhere where wine would be consumed on premise. You buy it and consume it there. And a lot of times that's where the more valuable wine is sold, at least in terms of price points. There's more money in the supply chain that comes through on-premise sales than off-premise sales like grocery stores. And so while we're consuming as much wine, there's probably not as much value being pushed through the industry in terms of dollar sales. So that's going to affect the higher end of the market disproportionately, and I think that we're we're going to see the effects of the coastal areas of the state struggling to achieve pricing in the market that is economically sustainable for them, at least for the foreseeable, immediate future, because the big push right now is for inexpensive wines and wines that are bought through grocery stores, and maybe that's $10, $15 a bottle and not 40 or 50 at a restaurant.
Right. Also, just because of all the losses that consumers have experienced too with COVID-19. So, well, thank you, Jeff, for the update on the state of the industry. We're going to get a thorough state of the industry report this November with Allied Grape Growers at our annual grower expos, the Central Coast Grape Expo and the Grape Nut and Tree Fruit Expo. So we look forward to that in November in a virtual format. Read more about these things in American Vineyard Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.